Okay, good evening, everybody, and thank you, Steve. So thank you for joining us for this quick trip up to the North Pole. So we're going to be going to the North Pole on a nuclear-powered Russian icebreaker. The trip took place back in July of 2014. So here in the Detroit area, we're at latitude approximately 42.5 degrees north, which puts us about 3,200 miles from the North Pole. It's not so easy to get to the North Pole by going straight north. So I went a more indirect route, which took me almost twice as far. And that route is indicated here. It had 3 legs. We went from Detroit to Helsinki by commercial flight, 4,300 miles. And then Helsinki to Murmansk, Russia, another 660 miles by charter flight, and then the cruise on the icebreaker from Murmansk to the North Pole, 1,500 miles on the water. Along the way, both going and coming back, we stopped at Franz Joseph Land and did a few things there. Some of the photos and all the videos I'll be showing at the end were very kindly shared with me by John Ho from Hong Kong. I met him and his wife on this tour, and he had a very nice camera and got some very good pictures, which you'll be seeing shortly. So as just a quick glance, this is what the icebreaker looks like. It's over 500 feet in length, and this little symbol here of an atom on the side indicates that it is nuclear powered. So this indicates the route that we took. Here in green is Finland, and at the southern end is Helsinki. So I flew to Helsinki and then flew up to Murmansk, Russia. Got on the icebreaker here, headed north, went through Franz Joseph Land at about 80 degrees north, up to the North Pole, and then back again through Franz Joseph Land. So here we are in Helsinki. I'm looking out of my hotel window, and down on the ground, this is my hotel, the Hilton. So we're now about 2,000 miles from the North Pole. Helsinki is the largest city and capital of Finland. And since this was my first time there, I walked around a little bit, taking just a few pictures to see what the city looked like. Here off in the distance, you see this is the Uspensky Cathedral, Eastern Orthodox, which was built back in 1868. Large square in the city. This is the Helsinki Cathedral. It's a Finnish evangelical cathedral built in 1852. This is one of the most popular tourist spots in the city. A park for people. They're just out enjoying the afternoon, sitting on the grass. Here's a park for dogs. And in fact, if you look back here in the shade, here is a dog. And a couple other pictures taken in the city. And the next morning, we're at the airport. And we're at gate 35. We're going to be flying on Finnair, going to Murmansk, leaving at 11 a.m. And the temperature in Murmansk at the time was 18 degrees Celsius, about 64 degrees Fahrenheit. So taxiing out to our runway. We're now in the air, looking down at the Helsinki International Airport. And right in front of me, the display of the GPS. So we just left Helsinki. We're going to Murmansk, and Murmansk is now about 837 kilometers distance. It's about an hour and a half flight. So partly cloudy when we left. And now we're approaching Murmansk, coming down. We're getting close to sea level. And if you look down below here on the rocks, you can see little white areas. This is snow. So even though it's in July, We still have a little snow because we're already north of the Arctic Circle. Quite a bit of forested area just before we land. And now here we are at the Murmansk Airport. About 15 miles out from town, so we take a bus ride into the town. And along the way, it's mostly forested, but I can also see a few houses and small little towns like this. And now here we are in Murmansk. This is the largest city in the world north of the Arctic Circle. It has a population of about 2,900 people, and we're now only about 1,400 miles from the North Pole. So more than halfway there from Detroit. So another view, some things I can read, although I don't know the Cyrillic alphabet very well, but this looks to me like probably supermarket, open 24 hours a day, I'm guessing. And here we're advertising Audis. Before we go to the icebreaker itself, we have a couple hours because they're not quite ready for us, so we spend it in a park. And there are a few interesting things in the park. This is a memorial to sailors who perished in peacetime. See the anchor here. There was a small church in the park. The interior of the church. And now we have a memorial to the defenders of the Soviet Arctic during the Second World War. So you see the date, 1941 to 1945. Another view of the base of this memorial. And here we have the eternal fire and the unknown soldier who has died in defending the homeland. Well, this is the whole monument, which is about 140 feet in height. So this is looking back up. This is the Tuloma River, which flows past Murmansk and out into the Barents Sea, which will be going on shortly. And they didn't allow us to take pictures of the icebreaker when we were getting on because it's at a military base. So once again, this is what it looks like. We'll soon be on board. Little information about the icebreaker. Nuclear powered. It was commissioned in 2007, so only 7 years old when I took my expedition. Now 13 years old. Overall length, 524 feet. Displacement is almost 26,000 tons and propelled by 3 fixed pitch propellers, 75,000 horsepower. And the power source is not 1, but 2 nuclear reactors, each one putting out 171 megawatts of power. And on the open waters has a maximum speed of 51 knots, although considerably slower going through thick ice. And the registry, of course, is Russia. So here we are departing the dock. We were told not to take any photographs until we were a couple miles away. So I obviously didn't take this picture. I don't know who did, but there it is. And here's a tugboat that helped us get away from the dock. And now we're swinging out into the Tuloma River and ready to head downstream towards the Arctic. And as we're going through this military base, we can see other boats which are also nuclear powered. So here you see the symbol, little atom, this is nuclear powered. This boat is also a nuclear powered craft. A floating dry dock. And this, of course, is our boat, 50 Years of Victory. This is named after the victory at the end of the Second World War, which was 50 years ago at the time this icebreaker was constructed. This is the top plate of one of the nuclear reactors. And down here you can see the international symbol for radioactivity. Maybe one doesn't want to get too close to that. At least I didn't. And looking back at the way we have come, you notice we were carrying a helicopter with us on board. And in fact, we made considerable use of that helicopter on the trip. Going up to the bridge, which was open to all of the passengers almost all the time. And looking at our compass, we're now heading in the direction of north-northeast. We're now out on the Barents Sea, 22 degrees azimuth. And looking forward and over the bow, we have a few seagulls that are following us, more seagulls. And looking back the way we have come. One thing that was quite enjoyable and very informative, during our cruise, we had a number of seminars or talks which were given by various people on various topics. So we were bringing with us several ornithologists that we were going to let off when we went through Franz Joseph Land. And one of them gave this presentation. This is Maria Gerville, who gave the presentation. And in her presentation, she showed dozens and dozens of pictures of birds who live on these islands. And I just picked out 3 or 4 of the pictures here. Kittiwake. And after a couple of days, we see our first iceberg out here. And as you may know, icebergs are a little bit bluish in color. So there's the first one. And not too much longer after that, we see land ahead up here. This land, in fact, is Franz Joseph Land. And this is a Russian archipelago, which consists of 192 individual islands, mostly unoccupied. There is a few military personnel on these islands. Most of the islands are totally unoccupied. So the route we take, I'm pretty sure, was up to the British Channel and out this way. And we dropped our ornithologist off about here. And on the way back, we came down this way, like so. And the first island we stopped at was Champ Island. And then there were 2 other islands further along, which I have not identified at this time. This land is mostly ice covered. It's about 85% covered in glaciers. So as we get closer to Franz Joseph Land, we can see the islands a little better. And now we stop to let off the ornithologists who are going to be there on their own for several weeks. Here's a lot of the baggage which they'll be taking. And they have 2 people going with them, this fellow and this fellow here. You may notice they've got high-powered rifles, which they are carrying. The reason being, this area is frequented by polar bears. And what we were told about polar bears is that polar bears are always hungry and they have no natural fear of man. So if you find yourself out in the wilderness alone with a polar bear, you're in big trouble. So they don't want to shoot the polar bears, but as a last resort, they can. So the 2 sharpshooters are going to go first to the island by helicopter. So the helicopter's up and away. So here's the helicopter taking off to the islands, off to the right. And then they get out the Zodiacs. They're going to take the ornithologist by Zodiac mostly and their baggage. And so here we got 3 of them in the water with some of the people going to the islands. And then we head north. And immediately we see more ice. And then we come across a group of walruses. Or I had to look this up. This is known as a herd of walruses. You can see they weren't very sanitary. And then one of the walruses came out to challenge. They put a couple zodiacs to study them up close. And this particular walrus, I guess he was the leader of the herd, came out and challenged the zodiac, wanted to do battle. And they had to do some tricky maneuvers to stay away from him because there was a fear that he would puncture the zodiac with his tusks. But eventually he chased the zodiacs away. And then when they were gone, he came after us in the big icebreaker. He was a brave walrus. Then we head north further, and the further north we go, the more ice we see, the thicker the ice is. This is sea ice. This is frozen salt water. Then we come across some tracks. And if you look carefully, you might guess that these are tracks of a polar bear. In fact, following the tracks, here is the polar bear. And it turns out the polar bear has just killed a seal and is in the process of having a meal. This unfortunate seal. And there was this very brave or foolish seagull who decided he would also like to have a little seal meat. And I will show you a video a little bit later at the end of this actually taking place. So those of you who are a little squeamish might want to look aside when you see the polar bear eating the seal, but you can see what might happen to the seagull who gets rather close. But eventually the polar bear leaves before finishing his meal. He's rather nervous. I don't think he's seen anything as big as the icebreaker. And so he eventually leaves. And we proceed north. Now this is something I've never seen before. This is called a fog bow, sometimes a white rainbow. It's similar to a rainbow, except it occurs not in rain, but in fog. And it occurs when there are little droplets of water less than 2/1000th of an inch in diameter, which gives rise to this phenomenon. Because the droplets are so small, there's a lot of diffraction which smears the colors together. These are sometimes known as sea dogs to mariners. This is the first time I ever saw one. Heading further north, more ice. And looking down, we can see the ice is getting now several feet in thickness. It was up to 10 feet thick in places as we got towards the North Pole. And it was impressive how easily this icebreaker was able to go right through it most of the time. This is something that we often saw. These are called pressure ridges. The ice up there is not a simple monolithic sheet of ice. It is broken up into ice floes of various sizes, which are moved around by currents and the wind. And when these ice flows collide with each other, the boundaries, the ice gets, well, high pressures are generated and the ice gets pushed up like this, both at the top and also underneath down in the water. So these ridges are reproduced under the water and are about 2 or 3 times deeper than what you see here. So these pressure ridges on top are called sails, and under the water they're called keels, just like on a sailboat. Another view of the ice as it's getting quite thick. What it looks like behind us where we've broken up the ice. And now it's time for a helicopter ride. So this is the first group boarding the helicopter. So up they go. And they go out for about 15 minutes sightseeing. They come back. And they land. And then it's my turn to get on the helicopter. So I'm now on the helicopter looking out the window. We're still on the deck, but rather quickly we're up in the air, looking down on the ice and looking at our ship as it's cruising north. Somehow I was very lucky because I had reserved a room for one person on this boat. And at the last moment, they gave me a free upgrade, a free $30,000 upgrade into a 3-room suite. And this suite happened to have a GPS display showing us exactly where we were. And this picture I took, where this is our north latitude here, 89 degrees, 55 minutes. So this puts us 5 nautical miles, or about 6 statute miles from the North Pole. So we are almost there. So I leave my room, I go out, have a look around. This is the North Pole. That is what it looks like. Smooth and flat. And the surface of the ice is at 1 foot above sea level, because the ice here is typically 10 feet thick. 1 foot above sea level, 9 feet below. Another view of the North Pole. And looking back the way we've come, this is the ice which we've broken up in our passage. So there's, I forget the exact number of passengers. I think it's close to 100. So we've all come down to the foredeck to celebrate. See a lot of happy faces because we're here. We get out the bottles of champagne and we all drink a toast to a successful mission getting us to the North Pole. Champagne, champagne, champagne. A lot of people, several people have brought their country's flags so they can have pictures taken and displayed with themselves on their flags at the North Pole. So this is the Chinese flag. This flag is of the District of Hong Kong. This flag I cannot identify. If anybody knows, I'd be interested in knowing what it is. More champagne. So you see, we have a very happy group here. And this person obviously from the United Kingdom with his glass of champagne. The Japanese flag. And here's our official photograph. We all assembled up here to have our picture taken from the bridge. I'm in this group somewhere, I don't know where. I haven't looked at sufficient resolution to determine that, but somewhere in this group, I'm there. We left a marker behind. This is the capsule, which is all sealed up with a message inside saying, we were here. We're gonna drop this at the bow of the boat. Gonna go down through a hole in the ice, down to the bottom. The water here is about 13,000 feet deep, about 4,000 meters in depth. And it's gonna set down there till somebody finds it someday. So here it is just before it's lowered over the side. So it's about 2 weeks after the summer solstice, so the sun is about 20 degrees above the horizon. So things cast pretty long shadows. So this is the shadow of our boat at the time. So what to do next? Well, obviously, since we made it to the North Pole, we should get out and have a party. So we have people getting out on the ice, setting up for a party. They're setting out tables. They're deploying this, and this turns out to be a hot air balloon, advertising quark expeditions. Now we're inflating that balloon. And balloon's now fully inflated. And in fact, up it goes. And now everybody is coming down the gangplank to the surface of the ice for our party. And what do we find up there? Well, here's a sign, North Pole, 90 degrees north. They're displaying the flags of the countries of all the passengers who are on board. So there's a number, Japanese, United Kingdom, Canada. Here's my flag. And here's our hot air balloon. So we had the opportunity to go for a ride at the North Pole, up about 100 feet or so. So this group is coming down. I've gotten in the basket. I'm looking straight up inside the balloon, and there's nothing there but hot air. So up we go, and here's a view looking over here at the icebreaker, looking down at the people below us, and back on the surface again. And this is just one chunk of ice that's been broken up here at the side of the ship. So a few interesting things. Here's a mailbox. You can put a piece of mail in here and get a postmark, the North Pole. They had special stamps that we could buy inside, so I bought a couple, mailed a couple letters from here, and the recipients about a month later got them with the North Pole stamp on it. And here's a phone booth. Turns out we were able to make phone calls from the North Pole. They allowed us to speak for about 3 or 4 minutes using the Iridium satellite constellation. So that was kind of cool. And here we are. Here's a signpost. Again, we're at the North Pole, and they point out the directions to various places and the distances. So for example, Murmansk, where we just come from, 2,340 kilometers away. The equator, you can't read it, but it says 10,000 kilometers exactly, and that is exact. That's the way the meter was originally defined, such that there were 10 million meters from the North Pole to the equator, passing, I think, on a line of longitude through maybe Paris. Not sure about that, but something like somewhere in France. And then the distances and directions to other places. I've been to all but I think 3 of the places indicated here. I've been to Buenos Aires, the equator I've been to, Honolulu, Vancouver, almost went to Sydney, but I had a medical problem the day before I was supposed to leave. Been to Reykjavik, and of course Murmansk just came from there. Here's a strong guy who noticed that the boat might be drifting away a little bit, so he's simply pulling us forward a little bit more. They drop the anchors, but they don't quite make it to the bottom. They're hung up here on the ice. This is the Russian coat of arms that you see here on the front of the ship, as the traditional double-headed eagle that you see here. One of the anchors up close. And here comes the food. Cannot have a party without food. First of all, I'll just point out that we got 4 of these guys with their guns. We were told that the polar bears are not seen very frequently at the North Pole, but sometimes they are. So they marked off a large square with the red flag at each corner, and at each flag there was a guy with a gun, just in case the polar bears show up. And here's a picture of Annie Cheng, picture taken by her husband, John, cleverly arranged so it looked like she's holding this hot air balloon up with her hand. And then we all circle around the North Pole for another official photograph. And again, I haven't identified which of these is me. I'm pretty sure I'm over in this vicinity here. I'm not sure which one is me. Okay, time for a swim. What's more refreshing than a little swim before a meal? Diving in, and there he goes. And she's going to go in the water swimming as well, which she does, and now she's coming out afterwards. So as you might guess, this is rather cold, rather invigorating. This is ice water. There's a lot of ice in it. Because it's salt water, it is colder than 32 Fahrenheit. In fact, everything here is 28 degrees Fahrenheit. The water, the air, the ice, everything 32 or 28 Fahrenheit. So it's rather brisk. So I thought a few people might do this because we were given the opportunity. I was just astonished that more than half the people in our group chose to jump in this ice cold water. I chose not to, but a number of people did. This guy's just getting out. This guy's going to go in. There's a safety belt around each swimmer so they can pull them back in case they pass out. This guy was quite remarkable. Most people would jump in, scream, and then paddle out as quickly as they could. Not this guy. He jumped in and he just swam around like he was down in the Caribbean. Climbed up on a little piece of ice. Couldn't get him out. He was perfectly happy there. But eventually he talked him off the ice, and reluctantly he swims back and gets out of the water. So this went on for some time because there were a lot of people who wanted to claim that they'd gone swimming at the North Pole. And then after a good brisk swim, it's time to eat. So they set up the food line here, lots of good food, unlimited food, which in fact was very tasty. And here we are at our tables having a good meal. This is what I was eating. Unfortunately, I didn't think of taking a picture until I'd eaten about half of the food, but this is what the last half looked like. And then time for a little hike. So a group of us went out about half a mile out on the ice, walked around, and then came back again for a 1 mile round trip hike. Once we got a half mile out, a number of people felt pretty tired. So they thought they would lie down and rest a little bit before returning to the boat. But eventually we had to go back. And I'm just looking at my picture here. I think I can't see it. Yes, I can see it. While we were out there, the fog came in. And so you can see down here our boat rather indistinctly, but there it is. And as we started back, the fog got thick and we couldn't see the boat at all. But that was no problem because we had these tracks that we could follow right back to the boat. And we did have a sharpshooter with us just in case a polar bear showed up. Didn't happen, fortunately. So trudging back to the boat. And now we've got everything all packed up again, ready to leave. This was the last photograph that was taken. So nothing left on the surface but a bunch of footprints, which we've left all over the North Pole here. And now we're on our way back. Now, this is a rather large gap between ice flows. These are called leads. And we encounter them fairly frequently. And if we find a lead which is going approximately in the direction we want to go, they try to get the boat into it because it can go much faster through the open water than it does through the ice. And oops, what's this? Now we've encountered on the way back down more tracks. More tracks, and here we are, another polar bear. So I think we saw about 4 or 5 polar bears on the round trip, going up to the North Pole and then coming back again. And on 2 or 3 occasions, we would stop briefly so we'd get some pictures and we could try and get a little bit close to the bears. But after a couple of days, we see land ahead, back to Franz Joseph Land again. And now we're going to Champ Island, which is this island. So out come the Zodiacs. Here's a group of people going down the gangplank into the Zodiac. Each Zodiac holds about 10 or 12 people. So this is going off to the island. And now I'm in the Zodiac, and there are more passengers coming down. We're all wearing our parkas, our life jackets, and big heavy-duty insulated boots. So now we left the icebreaker, and we're headed into that island. And here's the island ahead. And these are people on shore waiting for us. And these two guys here are going to help us land the boat and then get out of the Zodiac. So here we are. This is the next group of people coming in behind us, and then the Zodiac behind them. So here we are, Champ Island, uninhabited. So here we are. This is John Ho. A few of his pictures I've been showing, and the videos at the end. He took all of the videos, and his wife, Annie Cheng. And this is one of the guides that we had. He was a professor, I think, of geography from Oxford University. You learned a lot from him. John Ho, Annie Cheng, I forget his name, but professor from Oxford University. One thing interesting about this island is they had a lot of rocks, round rocks like this, which occur naturally. It's not exactly clear what the weathering phenomena is that produces them, but here's another one. Quite large rocks. There's also some vegetation and flowers. So when I see flowers, I normally think of honeybees. I didn't see any honeybees, but I'm guessing there must be some kind of insect here which help in the pollination of these plants. Okay, we're back in the Zodiac. We spent a couple hours on the island. Nobody was eaten by a polar bear. So we go along the edge of the island a little bit. These are colonies of birds up here on the rocks, which you see here. All the white specks are birds. One of the glaciers coming down to the sea. And here is a flotilla of birds out in the water. And they go right past us. And then we continue back here to the gangplank so we can get back on the icebreaker again. And now we're leaving that island and heading for the second island. This is that second island. I haven't ascertained the name at the moment. But before we get there, we find something in the water. In fact, there are several things in the water, and they spout. This is, in fact, a pod of whales. I don't know exactly how many, but several. You can see the tail flukes of one which is diving over here. This is with my camera. And with John's camera, his telephoto lens, another whale which is diving. So back in the Zodiac, and we're going to the second island to explore. And here's Santa fell up on a rock with a gun. Now we're on the island looking at others coming. This is the glacier coming right down to the ocean here. So we spent a couple hours walking around on this island. Interesting geological formations. And here are sharpshooters up on the rock. Also, we had the helicopter out overhead and just keeping a lookout for polar bears in case there are any in the area that might be interested in us. Turns out these islands were used as a base back in the late 1800s, early 1900s for groups of explorers who were trying to make their way to the North Pole. And often they would build small structures, huts and so forth, where they could stay for a few months, either on the way up or on the way back. So this is the remains of one of them. I don't know when it was built, but it's obviously some decades old. And I found the nails they used were rather interesting. Not the kind of nails we use today. These look like they might have been made by a blacksmith. They're square in cross section. And this is my hand, which is proof that I was there. And the picture of John Ho and another one of our guides. I don't remember his name, but he was another professor. I think he was from the University of Wisconsin, and his specialty was either geology or meteorology, or maybe both. And finally, here's the proof I was there. So this is 4 of us. This is me right here, John Ho, Professor, University of Wisconsin, and Annie Chang. So I'm nearing the end of my photos. Let me just remind you that the Winter Olympics in 2014 were held in Sochi, Russia. And to get the Olympics underway, there was a relay of the Olympic torch, where it was lit in Olympia, Greece, the ancient Olympia, Greece, and then was hand carried by thousands of people, the relay, through Greece and all over Russia, and even out to the International Space Station and back again. Total of 40,000 miles, with hundreds or thousands of people being the torchbearer, as it went by foot, by running, by walking, by bicycling, by swimming, by boat, by car, by train, you name it. Took 4 months. So there's just a little bit of it. Swimming. And the reason I tell you this is because we had on our boat that very torch. So it was used to ignite the cauldron at various locations of the games. And then we had the opportunity of having our picture taken with the torch. So this is a couple that were there with the torch. Another passenger with the torch. I didn't, unfortunately, get a picture of myself with the torch. And that brings me to the end of my slides. So I have 2 souvenirs. One is this cup. In fact, I have it right here, North Pole cup. And my other souvenir beside the photographs is my t-shirt, which is North Pole t-shirt. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go through a few videos here. Again, John Ho is the one who recorded these videos. So let's start with this one. This, if you get the sound, you'll hear what it sounds like. You also see what it looks like as we're moving along in the icebreaker through the ice, breaking up the ice as we go.
I can hear it, but I can't see it. I think you might have to reshare your screen.
Okay, hang on a second. That feature, you're not seeing
it. I still see your PowerPoint. I still see your PowerPoint.
Okay, so that's so I've stopped sharing. Let me try again.
Mm-hmm.
Are you getting a picture now?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just stop back. So you have both audio and visual now. This is the polar bear, so if you're squeamish, look away. This is our seagull. Seagull knows better than to get too close to the polar bear. And other seagulls over here as well. Eventually he gets nervous and leaves. Leaves the sea over the seagulls.
Yeah. It's good contrast. That was good, wasn't it? Yeah.
This is second polar bear. Another view from the port side. Seeing the ice broken up close. Time-lapse photography of our departure. Time-lapse photography entering the ice. And time-lapse photography at the North Pole. Okay, so that ends the videos I would like to show you. So I think at this point I stopped sharing.
Yeah, so I think we can start the question portion if that's all right with you.
Yes.
So we had some good ones come in, and we still encourage any more that come. So we had one that said, how long were you on the water before you reached Franz Joseph Land?
We were on the water 2 to 3 days before we got to Franz Joseph Land. It was the halfway point, and the trip to the North Pole was it was probably about 6 days on the water.
Then what was the temperature when you were on the North Pole?
28 degrees Fahrenheit. Air temperature, water temperature, ice temperature. When we bought our tickets, made our reservations, included in the price were these yellow parkas that we all got. They were totally unnecessary because we experience 28 degrees Fahrenheit here in Detroit all the time, and we don't have heavy duty parkas. Now, when I went to the South Pole, we also got parkas, but there the temperature is minus 25 Fahrenheit with minus 40 Fahrenheit. So they were very welcome down there, not really needed at the North Pole.
One guest asked, how much time did you spend total on the North Pole?
Off the boat on the North Pole with our partying, probably 3 hours, 4 hours maybe.
Someone asked, what makes it possible for icebreakers to break the ice? Is it a solid steel hull in the front or something about the shape?
Yes, the breaking of the ice has to do with the shape. So it is designed so that the hull at the front, up at the bow, slides up on top of the ice, and the weight then comes down on the ice, breaks the ice, so the boat can push its way through the ice. So it's continually going up on the surface and breaking through the ice with the weight of the boat.
Do we have there was only one other question in the chat, and it seems to have got answered. It asked if you got any good views of the stars. Oh, there's another one that just came in.
Oh no, certainly no stars because it was summer. The sun was up 24 hours a day.
That's crazy. Someone asked, what was the cost of the expedition, not including air?
I think at that time, the expedition, including our parkas, was about $25,000 for the trip. And that included, we had to get ourselves to Helsinki. And that included in the price was the charter flight up to Murmansk from Helsinki. I think about $25,000 at that time. I was looking again on their website, and they're still doing these polar trips. And they listed the cost nowadays as, I think, around $31,000.
Wow. I don't see any other ones that have come up yet, but I guess I would ask, what was some of the food like? I saw a pretzel in a picture. I mean, it seemed like pretty nice.
Well, the food was very good. It was unlimited quantities. I've been on several different cruises, many places on Earth, and the food is always very good and very plenteous. We had one night, which was a Russian night, where they specialize in Russian food, and a vodka, drink of choice. It was good. Yeah, enjoyable. Yeah.
Steve, I have a question for him too.
Yeah.
Jerry, what do you have to do to get a $30,000 upgrade? How do you get the lucky upgrade?
Well, that's a good question. The person that I was talking with at Quark, we did have several conversations as the arrangements were being made. And I had indicated to him, we somehow got talking about the Northern Lights. I'd indicated to him that I had been up to the Yukon where we had gotten a nice view of the Northern Lights. and I sent him some of the pictures that we had taken. So maybe to show his thanks for the pictures I sent, I got this $30,000 up. I don't know why I got it, but he was the one who informed me about getting it. So maybe it was due to those pictures. The Aurora Borealis, that's my answer.
I'm gonna travel with you if you can get upgrades like that.
Doesn't happen all the time.
Someone asked, how long was a typical day? For example, did you start the day at 8 a.m. and like when did you wake up and how would like the day start? How long?
Oh my, I don't remember. The sun was up. There was no night on the whole trip because even since we're just past the summer solstice, the sun never went down at Murmansk or anywhere north. So the sun was up all the time. I don't recall. I'm sure there was a time schedule, and we probably used local time at Murmansk. The meals, major meals were served at certain times, so that would determine when we got up, went to bed, and so forth. But there was always snacks available anytime, 24 hours a day.
We have Phil asked, how many days was your trip total?
It was 14 days total from Detroit back to Detroit. And I think 12 days once I landed in Helsinki until I was back in Helsinki.
And someone asked, does the lack of sunset throw off your sleep patterns?
No, I had no problem sleeping. We have very dark curtains. In the room, we can close the curtains and get them very dark.
Any more questions for Jerry? Well, if there aren't any, we would like to. I'm gonna launch a poll right now, a live poll to see where we would want to go next. To do this again in about a month. So I'm gonna launch the poll, and everyone should vote. It's an anonymous poll, but there's 4 choices here. Should be able to see the poll now.
If you're on a computer that doesn't have polling showing up, feel free to put an answer in the chat. We want to know where you want to go with Jerry next. So the options are Bora Bora and the Galapagos, Chile and its big telescopes, in search of the northern lights in Alaska and the Yukon Territory, and penguins by the millions in the Antarctic Peninsula.
All right, just about everyone has voted, so we're gonna share the results. The winner is 2 islands, Bora Bora and the Galapagos. That it had 40% of the vote. You should be able to see the results right now, but so the islands, Jerry, what does that entail?
Well, that entails plane flights and boat trips. The Galapagos is right on the equator. So we started out at the South Pole, now we've gone to the North Pole. So it looks like next time we're going to go halfway in between to the equator with the Galapagos Islands. Bora Bora is somewhat south of that, down in the South Pacific.
I guess in a way it was a natural selection that someone would pick those islands.
Seems good.
Sorry.
I had to boo you.
No, that sounds exciting though. So Jerry, if you have any final comments, I think we will end the Zoom soon. But we will definitely email everyone here who attended this information about that next talk. And also, we ask everyone to help spread the word about that planetarium fundraiser. We've got the link in here. That new projector is going to be pretty sweet. I know Megan's pretty geeked about it.
Very excited about it, and I'm looking forward to when we can get everybody back in the planetarium to use it.
So I'll just thank everybody for joining us this evening and coming along on our trip up to the North Pole.
Well, thanks so much, Jerry, and thanks everyone for coming by, and look forward to doing this again. Really appreciate your time, and the photos are just phenomenal, and your way of presenting it as well.
Thanks, Jerry.
You're welcome.
Well, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Ready?